Julianna is a podcaster, runner, Harry Potter nerd. She's a Hufflepuff, by the way. Demisexual, dietitian, spondy, and dog mom. Julianna lives on Cape Cod in Massachusetts with her pitty Myrtle. She has two podcasts that she hosts. One is called Runnah, and it's about running in her hometown of Falmouth, Massachusetts. And her other podcast is called Into the Fold, which is a Grishaverse. I can never say this word. Grishaverse. Grishaverse. It's hard to not SH that ending. Grishaverse podcast, which I believe is a young adult book series. And both of those podcasts are produced by her, and she co-hosts In the Fold with her best friend, Jeff. By day, she works managing her local running store, and she's also a registered dietitian. And in this episode, we intended to talk about demisexuality. And we, as always on the show, when I have conversations with guests, it's always open to what is really alive in the moment and what comes up. So we ended up talking more about chosen family and setting boundaries with your given family and taking the steps that you need to really decide what people that you want in your life, taking the steps to really feel worthy of getting to set boundaries and getting to make those decisions. And I think it's very important to know that you are allowed to do this. And so, yeah, without further ado, here's my conversation with Julianna. Welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen in healthy relationships. On this show, we talk about self-love, sexuality, relationship tips, including ending the cycle of toxic relationships, and healing and thriving after heartbreak. Hi, I'm your host, Celia, and I am a certified sex, love, and relationship coach, helping ambitious women with a history of toxic relationships feel deeply connected in healthy love. These are such important topics that every woman deserves, so if you could leave this show a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help more women find this, it would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for being here today. Now let's dive into the show.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I was already recording because I was going to record your intro.
Oh, okay.
But I was like stumbling over some few things. I was like, Grishaver, sure.
It's all good. It's all good. I definitely, this past year has shown to me how much I built out my found family. It's just because I've kind of gone through the process with my therapist, Anne, shout out to Anne, just kind of accepting that the family I wished I had, like that I grew up in and was like born into, kind of isn't the family that I've always hoped and dreamed about having. I mean, even as a kid, I remember being like, I wish my family was like, just, I guess, a lot more outwardly affectionate. And I think more just attentive, I think is really what I wanted. Just someone who would give me some kind of like acknowledgement and attention, and also just not judging me. And because my family is very, very good at judging people. It is pretty much their full-time job. But
same, we're German, and
yes.
openly judging is just a part of the culture.
Half of my family is German, half is Irish, which is not really helping in any capacity either. And then the other half is German. So yeah, just like that kind of bluntness, and also just like also mixed with that good old Irish Catholic guilt. And it's just, my family is just they love to judge things. And I'm just the person who's always like, why can't we all just get along? And like, just trying to celebrate the positive thing. I've just always been that person, whether I was in a good headspace or not. But I've gone through the process of kind of grieving the loss of the family I wished I had, and then realizing that I'm not stuck in that family experience, well, if I don't want to be, and choosing to separate myself is an option, and also choosing to create the family that I wished I had is also an option too.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to find people, and what I've kind of found is just playing with the ratio of how much my blood family is involved and how much my non-blood family is involved, my found family, and just kind of figuring out where I feel the most like myself and the happiest. And
Mm.
recently I found that generally speaking, the less involved my blood family is and the more involved my found family is, I tend to be happier. I think just because the family that you're born into, you don't get to choose. The family that you like kind of adopt as your found family, you get to pick these people out essentially and decide, like, do I want this person in my life or not? Which is not a choice you get to make with the people that are just kind of given to you.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to like given family versus chosen family.
Yeah.
And for people who are listening, because I think that resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, because I think, first of all, our society isn't set up so that parents can give us that attentiveness that we want. You know, even if our parents are, you know, the best parents, we
Hmm.
still won't come out of childhood unscathed just because of how society is set up.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of people really resonate with this piece of like, I don't feel seen in my given family. And like, I need to go out there and get my tribe.
Yeah.
So, what were like the first steps you took to create that?
I mean, I think the first step for me was working with my therapist and just kind of reaching the point where I understood that was what I was looking for, was some kind of family that wasn't exactly my family, and coming to the realization that the family that I had always wished I had wasn't going to come from the family I was born into, because I always like to think back, and my therapist likes to just remind me that people are unlikely to change, especially if you have, like, because I'm 31, like 31 years worth of experience and chances that you've given them, and they haven't changed. And the probability that they're going to change after you've had all that, like, history of them doing the same behaviors over and over and over again is pretty unlikely. So whatever you're wanting, you're probably going to have to find somewhere else and not in that exact relationship. So that is
Yeah.
the starting point. Me just kind of coming to that realization that if I wanted something that wasn't what my family had been giving me prior, I probably was going to have to go somewhere else. And also, the second step was just kind of coming to the realization, like 2 or 3 years ago, that I just kind of wanted to be myself. And that's kind of like one of the hardest things to do out there, is just to authentically be yourself. And
Yes.
yeah, that's been my goal the last like 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3, 4 years now, give or take. And just to be a little bit more myself every day. And that has, in part, led me to people who are authentically, like, I'm authentically friends with, and like really enjoy their time, spending time with them, and feel welcome and are giving me what I want because I'm authentically being myself and being honest with myself. And also, like, setting boundaries and speaking out and speaking up and expressing myself in a positive and just productive manner. And that has led me to people who are in the same boat as me and I just genuinely feel connected to. And I'm also at the point where I'm comfortable going up to people, like, after I've met them and being like, I would like to be friends with you. And like just doing that thing that like little kids do when they're in schoolyards, of being
I
like, we're
love that.
friends now. And like I'll tell people, like, we're friends now. You understand that? Like, we are friends, and this isn't, you cannot take that back. I mean, they could, but like once someone is my friend, we
I
keep
think
them for
that's
life.
also like a theater kid thing too, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with one of my other friends the other day too about like weird things that theater kids do, and how we all the time will do things too where we're like we'll do something weird and then we'll be like, oh wait, that was weird, and then we'll just kind of like we'll be like, ah, and then like shrink back into our shells for a second. Because it'll just come upon us to like sing a song or do something weird. And then after
Yeah.
the fact, we'll realize like that was probably off-putting to a lot of people.
But not to the right people.
No. And that's kind of where I built myself up right now, where like my
Yeah.
friends who I consider like my found family and my best friends, I can be my weirdest, most authentic self around, and they find it endearing and funny. And that's all I want in life, is people to like see me and be like, oh, Julianna, she's so weird and I love it. And like that's really all I want.
Yeah. I love that. I celebrate that for you. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
So you mentioned that like one of the realizations was that you realized you just want to be like authentically yourself. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, did you discover your sexuality before venturing into like, I'm going to find chosen family, or did your chosen family help you discover your identity more? Or was it maybe a bit of both?
I think it's kind of like almost a 50-50 split, just because the person who is currently my best friend, Jeff, it definitely is someone who is very, very active in the LGBTQA plus community, and just very on top of staying up with the different like identities and sexual orientations and things like that. And before I met them, I hadn't really met anyone who, one, I was like that close with, and two, who was that like well versed in all the different things and was that involved with the queer community. And I've always kind of like sat on the edge, more or less. Like I knew I identified with those people, but I didn't feel like gay or lesbian, which like when we were in high school were kind of like the only two like sexualities you
Yeah.
could really take on, and people would
Yeah.
actually understand what you were saying and
Yeah.
had words to go with them, I think, too. Like had
Yeah.
definitions.
I would
So
say bisexual too. That was a
yeah.
big one as well, and at least in my high school.
Yeah. I would actually, yeah, I would throw that in there too. We had I knew some people who identified as bisexual as well too when I was in high school. And yeah, so you had like those three definitions. I didn't feel like I fit any of those three specifically. And like I was always being a theater kid, as you were too. Like you're always friends with the other queer kids. Like, and
Yeah.
I feel like every theater kid is just like a little bit queer. Sometimes we're like a little bit too touchy feely, a little bit too honest, a little bit like too.
Yeah. We love hugs.
Yeah. Sometimes we cross boundaries without, like, other people would think we're crossing boundaries, but within the theater community, we don't feel like we're crossing boundaries. So, like, I feel like everyone who does any kind of theater is like just a little bit queer at an absolute minimum. And that's how I kind of felt. I was like, these are my people, but I'm not really sure how I fit in here. And I never really understood. And then I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and like obviously no one's going to fact check me on this because it doesn't really matter in the long run, but the series of events was me meeting my best friend Jeff, becoming friends with them. Pretty much with that, what happened was Jeff was a listener to my old Harry Potter podcast. I had like interacted with Jeff a couple of times beforehand. They started sending emails to our Gmail account for the podcast. It then turned into Facebook DMs, and then I said, "You are my friend now." And that's just kind of where it stuck. And I told them like 2 months down the road, I was like, "We will have a podcast together." And Jeff said, "Okay." And that was and we just kind of evolved from there. But
And
again,
how long have you had a show together now?
I think we're going on 4 years now.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So yeah, and I've been friends with Jeff like 5 or 6 years now.
Okay.
So, which is great. And pretty good for an adult friendship, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially like a long distance one. And we end up seeing each other at least 2 or 3 times a year, which is great. So,
Nice.
I mean, honestly, even just like my in-person friendships, like even my closer friends who live like not even that far away, who aren't like in town, but like maybe like an hour, half an hour away, I feel like I see Jeff more than I see them, which I'm sure other people can identify with too, especially being an adult. Like you run out of time, and even the people who live close to you, you don't end up seeing, even though half the time they're right down the street. So
Yeah, I think when someone lives in your neighborhood, it's also maybe easier to take it for granted to be like, oh, we can see you anytime.
Yeah.
Especially
Definitely.
because I have a friend who is thinking of living in a different country and coming here and to a couple other states where she has friends, just like
once a year or
um,
so.
just for like staying in one city for a month, like kind of like
Hmm.
nomadic for half of the year.
Hmm.
And at first, she was kind of sad about it because she's like, I'm going to miss, all my friends. But she was watching some YouTube videos of people who
Hmm.
have that lifestyle. And they were like, I actually see my friends more because when I'm in town, in their neighborhood, just for
Yeah.
1 month, we see each other as often as possible.
Yeah.
But when I lived here, like, I never saw them.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that too, because like when I get to spend time with Jeff, we are just spending time together. We set aside, like I just went and saw them like a little over a month ago now. And
Uh-huh.
I stayed in their house for like 5 days and we did a bunch of stuff together, but they took time off from work. I had the time off and we just both spent like literally the entire day together for 5 days straight. Cried profusely at the
That's so
end
fun.
because we were so sad to leave each other.
Yeah.
But like that's more time than I know that I would get if like we didn't have that time to like just set aside for each other, because we're both busy people and most people as adults are busy people. So,
Mhm.
and it's challenging to set aside that time if you, especially if you're working full time, you have kids, like you have anything else going on.
Mhm.
It's hard to be like, okay, I'm just gonna like go over here for 5 minutes and then do this for, and then I'm gonna go see my friend, and you always have something else going on in your head that you have to get to if it's just like a regular day and you're not prioritizing seeing the person.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I don't know. I don't feel like we're at a loss. Like I feel like I'm at a loss not having Jeff. I mean, I had this realization. I think it was yesterday, actually, or the day before. Like my ideal situation is to live in someone's great grandma suite. Like you know how some people have
Ah,
like little suites on the
yeah.
back of the house for the grandma.
Like an
That's what.
in-law
Uh huh.
suite or
Hmm.
something.
That's what I
Sometimes it's
want.
about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to spend half the year in Jeff's house with him and his wife and his son. And then the other half I would like to spend with my friends, Ben and Nicole. I would like them to be able to an in-law suite for me. And I would just like to be the babysitter and also the person who's just like there. And they're like, ah, there's Auntie Juliana. There she is. And like I'm just like an accoutrement to the family. And I, like this is kind of this is where I feel like I find my sweet spot, is being like the weird aunt who's just like kind of like coming and going and doing her thing, and like maybe takes the kids a couple days a week and just kind of like just is there, and it's kind of weird. So that's
Which
the
I'm sure would be really fun for the kids.
yeah, I think it'd be fun. And
Yeah.
but yeah, no. So sorry, back to the demisexuality thing. We took a detour there. Uh,
You
but
mentioned that Jeff was like very well versed within the LGBTQIA plus
yeah,
like community and stuff. Is
yeah.
Jeff who you found out demisexuality from? Because personally, I hadn't heard of it until maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago. I'd never heard of that identity before.
Yeah, so I had started like becoming like better friends with Jeff, and they had started expressing their journey like discovering themselves, because what I would go on to find out like about a year or two later is that Jeff had actually just started on this journey of becoming themselves like a year before I had. So it was just kind of like a good
Good
timing kind
timing.
of thing.
Yeah.
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 And so they were talking to me about them like discovering their sexuality. Jeff is bisexual. Sorry, not sorry, pansexual and non-binary. Pansexual, non-binary. It's been an evolving process, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and like great. And I'm so happy when Jeff like discovers something new about themselves. It's wonderful. We love it. But I was like, I should kind of look into this, and I was like looking up how they were identifying at the time, just to like understand myself where they were coming from. And I ended up doing a deep dive online, like figuring out like all these different sexualities. And I remember it was like a website that had all the different flags on it. And I remember clicking on the demisexual one. I was like, I have no idea what this flag is. And purple is my favorite color. So we will be clicking on this flag. Because there's purple on that flag. But I clicked on it. I was like, oh, it like just like really resonated with me, what it said in the little description. And so, as you do, I started on a YouTube black hole deep dive of what it meant to be demisexual. And every video I watched just like reconfirmed in for me that this was like,
Mm.
I had finally found like a way to identify myself within the queer community. And I just felt so seen. I was like, oh my God, like this is like the words, because I have ADHD and dyslexia in a way that sometimes I can't say, and I've really worked on this skill and gotten a lot better at it. Like I can't say how I'm feeling until someone else gives me words for it. Like it's just an abstract concept. And then once I find the word that has the definition, I'm very good at expressing that. So like I had these feelings in my soul that I didn't have a word for them. And I was like, I don't know how to express them. And I spent pretty much my whole life feeling that way. And then all of a sudden I saw that and I was like, aha, this is what I've been
There it
waiting
is.
for. Yes, I finally have a word for the things I've been feeling. And that was just like nice to just finally have a way to communicate to other people how I was feeling inside. And for me, I like labels. I like just for my own personal use, just so I can communicate better with other people and also like internally with myself, just to know that like one, I'm not alone. There are other people who feel the same way. And two, just to be more effective in my communication. And so people understand what I'm trying to say instead of me being like, it's kind of like a thing that does this. And I'm just like trying to describe things in like, because my brain works in colors and pictures, which isn't the best way to communicate via verbal communication.
How do you feel? Purple.
Purple. It's like kind of purpley and green, and there's like a swooshing, and it's like woohoo, and it's like okay, Julianna, that means nothing. Thank you for
Only
drawing
the
a Pablo
color blue
Picasso.
would give a meaning if someone asked how you're feeling and you said blue.
Blue. Yeah, like I my brain communicates in Pablo Picasso paintings essentially. So not necessarily the
That's
most
a funny visual.
I mean, it's pretty accurate, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it. It's just like a splattering of a bunch of things, probably like a little bit more blue and purple tinted because those are my two favorite colors. But there's probably a lot of yellow in there. But it's just, yeah, my brain works in like abstract colors and pictures, and I'm great for that, and that's fine. But yeah, communicating via words has always been a challenge for me, and something that I really enjoy working on because I like to communicate how I'm feeling to people, and I'm definitely a verbal processor. So having those words to use is really helpful. But yeah, I kind of found it just from my friend being empowered to be themselves, which in retrospect empowered me to be myself, and it's just kind of nice. And this is kind of what I found with my two closest friendships I have right now is that it's not necessarily a like a give and take relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship where one person does something and then you feel inclined because they did this, like it reacts, you react positively and do something, and then they see you growing and they're like, that's so wonderful, and then they grow, and then you grow, and then they grow, and then you grow. And it's just that back and forth of just positive energy, giving positive energy back, and not feeling like you have to give to the relationship. Most of the, like, obviously there are some times when like everyone has disagreements, that's natural and that's needed. And that's what should be like, and you shouldn't agree on everything, but having that person like do something for you or express themselves in a way where you feel like you don't feel like it's a burden, you feel like it's almost a gift to you, and then you want to give back to them, or you want to like change yourself for the better because you're seeing your friends doing these really cool things, and you feel like by them being authentically themselves, you are then empowered to be authentically more yourself too.
Yes. And that's the power of friendship, and
Yeah.
not only friendship, just like any aligned relationship,
Yeah.
because you see them being themselves. It gives you that like permission slip to be yourself. I think there's
Exactly.
also something so powerful about your friendship or any relationship expressing to you what they see in you. 'Cause it's so hard to
Yeah.
sometimes it's so hard to see your own strengths or your own like what's cool about you, what's strong about you. It's hard to see that, but when a friend or a family member who, really does see you reflects that to you, you're like, "Oh, really? I
Yeah.
am? Thanks."
Oh
It's such a
yeah.
powerful mirror.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm the person too who I because I live alone and I largely operate most of my day-to-day experiences by myself. I do this thing where I tend to invalidate my own experiences, and me and my therapist have a lot of conversations about this because I just don't have anyone in my space validating what's going on. And I think some of it too is because I have a chronic illness. I see a lot of doctors, and as most female identifying people can say, when it comes to seeing doctors or healthcare professionals, you kind of get gaslit a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm just having being someone who has, not per my own choice, has to be involved with the medical system quite a lot. I've learned that I've been gaslit quite a lot by a lot of medical professionals, along with my family being part of that gaslighting situation as well too. And it's just I gaslight myself, and I know this,
We're kind of
and
trained too, right?
yeah. And so I invalidate my own experiences. I invalidate my own strengths. Like, so it's real for me. It's really interesting to hear what other people think of what I'm doing, because to me, I'm like, oh, I'm just a person. Anyone, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like, whatever. Like, did I even do it? I don't know. And just to have people be like, yeah, this is what, like, that's so cool that you did that. Or like that, like, even when I went to Tokyo last year by myself and stayed there for like almost 2 weeks, like fully alone. I didn't know anyone. And they were like, that is like so cool and like amazing that you did that. Like, not many people ever get to do that. In my head, I was like, yeah, we're just doing it. Like, and that was kind of like, I was like, yeah, we're just going to go. Right. Yeah.
Do you
Let's
speak
go.
Japanese?
No,
No.
no, I don't
I
speak
just know
any Japanese.
arigato. That's it.
Yeah. It was interesting when I was in Japan because that everyone I'm sure it's the same when you're trying to come over here and people are speaking English to you, but I could never find out what exactly I was supposed to say, because some people would say arigato and some people say arigato gozaimasu and some people would say arigato gozaimasu, and sorry, I was like, I was just like, one of them is thank you very much, one of them is thank you very much, and one of them is thank you very much with a long A, and I don't know what that meant, but
Yeah, I've seen on YouTube. I never watched it, but I saw this, like, when there's like suggested for you. I saw
yeah,
this video that was like 6 different ways to say thank you in Japanese, depending on the situation. And I'm like, what?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I ended up going with arigato gozaimasu because that was thank you very much, and that felt more formal to me.
Uh-huh.
So, and I learned and kind of felt while I was in Tokyo, it was better to be more formal than less formal at a default, just because of the
Hmm.
culture there. So I just kind of just went with that because I wanted to be able to be as respectful as I could, because that culture is just extremely respectful, and I kind of wanted to reciprocate as much as I could. So yeah, that was definitely interesting. But it's been interesting for people to come up to me and be like, that was like a really big cool trip to go that you went on, like people who are not my family, and like acknowledge,
Hmm.
like, they're like, that must have taken a lot of planning. I was like, yeah, actually, yeah, it did. But like, I just didn't really talk to anyone about all the planning that I had to do, because along with like the actual like logistics of getting there, I had like medications I had to like get approved to come over. Like, it was a whole like shit and shenanigans. But
Mm.
like, it was interesting to hear that and like continue to hear people say things like that, and then have my family be like, like, that's kind of their response to
Yeah.
everything I did. I was like, aha, gaslighting again. Here we go. Just like
Yeah.
kind of fully invalidating the fact that, like, I mean, the reason I went there was the Tokyo Marathon. So I went there, I ran the Tokyo Marathon, and then I spent like a week and a half after that, like going around Tokyo and like doing things there. So
Hmm.
just the fact that like I did all of that, and like I got a tattoo while I was there. We went to Disney World, we went to the Harry Potter stuff. Like, it was a fun time. It was great.
Oh,
So
sounds very fun.
yeah. But like, I've had a lot of people be like, that's a really big thing that you did. Like, you did a lot of like really challenging things while you were there, and that's really cool. And then I have my family be like, whatever. Like, just not caring at all in the slightest, and being like, oh, congrats, whatever. And then I'm just like, okay, yeah, so that's not
Yeah,
really
that
the response
sucks.
I want. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
But
again,
to
the
go
thing.
to go back to even like what you said earlier about like how I think it
Hmm.
was you said your therapist made you realize that
Yeah.
after so many years, 31
Hmm.
years of witnessing the behavior,
They're
knowing
not
that they won't
changing.
change,
Yeah.
for me, that is kind of a helpful thing to
Oh,
like
definitely.
go into the situation where you like
Hmm.
share about a trip. You
Hmm.
kind of go into it expecting them to be like, and then it
Eh.
doesn't hurt as much because
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I expected that. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely. I definitely have gotten to the point where, like, so just like for context, my first marathon that I ran, like, I crossed the finish line. I was ready for this is completely an unfounded expectation for me, given my family's history. This is just me in my own head creating like a little scene, of my
Hmm.
family being there at the finish line, being like, woo, like with signs screaming for me, being like, yeah, Juliana, great job. And
Yeah.
in reality, I crossed the finish line. My mom's standing there. She gives me like a kind of half-hearted hug, and it's like, great job. And then they start to tell me about the pancakes that they ate for like an hour, and like no one cares. I'm like so proud of myself. I'm like, look at me, I finished my first marathon ever. I'm like killing it out here on these streets. And they're
Yeah.
like, did you know we ate pancakes while you were running? I was like, great. And like even after I ran the Boston Marathon for the first time, they were like so unimpressed. And
Mm.
I've gotten to the point now where like my mom was like, because I'm running the Berlin Marathon this fall, she's like, I'll come to
Ah,
Berlin with you. I was like, no, I'm good.
good.
Like
Good boundary setting.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I like, and she like, I don't even tell them
Is
when I'm
Jeff
running a
coming?
race. No, my friend Aurora is coming though. She's a
Hmm.
fellow runner, so she's fundraising with the same charity I'm fundraising with, and we're both going to be going there. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll both be excited. Plus, I know a lot of the other people who are part of the charity that I work with, Team for Kids. So and they're just as enthusiastic about all these things as I am. So that's the correct people to surround yourself with. And I think that comes back to the point you were saying, like you have to figure out who to surround yourself with in certain situations that's going to get you to the point where you're going to feel the most authentically yourself and happy about
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
So it's just like feel like I know that when I go run marathons, like I'm not inviting my family because they're not going to be impressed. And I have a lot more fun when I go by myself and I meet people while I'm running or like at the finish line or at the starting line, because those are the same people who are just as excited to be there as I am.
Hmm.
And they're if I can engage with them, generally speaking, they're like willing to talk to me, and they're going to be just as excited when we cross the finish line as I am. And then also there's like no strings attached too. You can just kind of like have fun and then just like go about your way and not have to think like, oh, okay, now we have to go do this with this person, blah, 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 blah. And like the repercussions of like the family interconnected drama shit and shenanigans. So you have to figure out what you want to get out of an interaction and an experience, and then decide, are the people I would like I would innately bring with me, like say like my family, are they gonna enhance that experience or are they going to retract from that experience? Or are they gonna bring nothing to that experience? You know? So
Hmm.
it's kind of a weighing of the scales to see, is this a good decision? Is this a bad decision? And then just kind of figuring out from there who you want to be with you. And
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
do you want? It's your
Hmm.
choice. You can decide.
Hmm. And you're worthy of like deciding that. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like a lot of people kind of feel like it's mean to set those boundaries with family
Yeah.
just because they're family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, you really are worthy of setting those boundaries to whoever's listening.
Yeah. You are valid. You are worthy. You get to make your own decisions. You are a independent human being for the most part, hopefully, wherever you are. I don't know where you live, but hopefully you have basic human rights, whatever country you're listening to this in. And you can you can decide who is there for you. You don't have to invite your family. And I think just kind of opening up that word to encompass more than just your blood family, I think is
Yeah.
really empowering as well, too.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I like family can mean anything. Like for me, like right now, my family is my dog, um, my friends Ben and Nicole, and my best friend Jeff and his family, and my running community here in Falmouth, and also my aunt and uncle. So that's
Hmm.
just that's kind of who my family is right now, and
Hmm.
that's changed over the years, and nothing says it has to stay stagnant, but it's definitely a learning process to figure out who you want in your life. And obviously you're going to change too as you kind of move through life. So, and
Yeah.
that could mean changing location. That could mean changing like what you want or
Hmm.
like what your goals are.
Hmm.
So I think that you should kind of just try and stay in the moment if you can, or run the mile you're in, as I like to say, which is a tattoo I have on my arm, um, over here. But and sometimes, some days I have days where my arm is smarter than my brain, and we just kind of have to accept that.
So,
Uh,
have you gone completely like no contact with your given family?
no, not yet. And again, this kind of comes down to the it being in flux. I will say we're kind of where this podcast is catching me in like the middle of a kind
Mm.
of transition period, more or less. And I
Okay.
say that with a smile on my face, but it's definitely challenging to go through.
Oh
My
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, last year, for context, last year my family went on a big family trip to the Grand Canyon. Let's just say there was a lot of drama around it. There was a lot of people who shouldn't have been going on this trip. My dad's mental health is high key declining. Um,
Mm.
and he said a lot of wild things before they went on this trip. And my mom is like not in good physical shape, and I knew going on this trip would be not beneficial to me in any capacity. And so
Mm.
I said no, thank you. Um, Worked with my therapist to kind of just create create like things to say to them that were like that way I wasn't, because I feel bad lying to people. I don't like lying to people, but you can lie by omission, which means just not telling someone, like, you're not outwardly telling them you're doing something you're not, but you're just giving them like the basic information, which is another conversation I've had with my therapist of you don't owe everyone all the information in your life. So
Yeah. You can
just
just be like, no thanks, and that could be the end of it.
yeah, no is a full sentence.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've had to work on as well too. And currently right now, because I just had like a little minor injury in my hip and I was just kind of still recovering from it, I ended up not going to my parents' house for Christmas. I spent it with my aunt and uncle, which was great. Again, they're part of my found family right now, which is fabulous. We love them. Um, but my sister's wedding is in the spring, and like they're kind of I can feel them kind of getting used to not having me around in a way,
Mm.
and I can kind of feel my mom being like, "Oh, Julianna is kind of not really around as much." But it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. I tried to be friends with my sisters and my brother like for years and years and years, and this comes back to again the thing of they've given me a lot of proof that they're not changing, and so me kind of putting all my eggs in one basket and trying to go out of my way for people who have proven to me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that they are not changing is not in my best interest, unless my best interest for myself is to self-destruct. So
Mm.
it kind of
Mm.
is in that, we're kind of in that period where there's going to be a time, I think, when I'm not really seeing my siblings very much. And at this point, I'm kind of in the zone where I'm okay with it. Like they've not been in my life now for like actively for like 5, 6, 7 years now at this point. Just
Mm.
because they choose to ignore me because I really honestly unknown reasons to me. Nothing. There wasn't a big fight or anything. Nothing ever happened. They're just like my two sisters are just like best friends, and I think they're just so self-absorbed, which is funny because my aunt and uncle call them the clique, and that was independent of me saying anything. And so like take that as you will. But yeah, we're kind of in a transition period where like I'm probably not going to go full no contact with them as of right now. A lot of that kind of depends on what happens with my dad, because he's his own beast right there. And so
Mhm.
that's going to be an interesting dynamic to navigate. But I'm not ruling that out, nor am I ruling it in at this point. So
Yeah.
right now I'm
Yeah.
kind of in the zone where I feel comfortable with the people I call my found family. I feel the most happy when I'm not actively involved with my blood family very often at all. Um, just because they're very judgmental and they like to tell me who I should be, and that's not really who I am. And yeah, just kind of taking it day by day. Taking it day by
Mhm.
day. There's only so much you can do. So
I love that your chosen family, though, also does include a couple of blood family, because you said your
yeah.
aunt and your uncle.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And my follow-up question to that was going to be like, when you do spend time with your given family,
hmm
what are some things you do to kind of like prepare yourself
I
for
lower
those
my
interactions?
I lower my standards below the floor.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
So that way, if they do anything that's like remotely positive, I'm like surprised in a positive manner.
Okay, so it's lowering of expectations.
Yeah. We lower
Okay.
our expectations and our standards for the interaction. Um,
Hmm.
very, very, very low. Like when I have interactions with my family, I have zero expectations for them. I expect them to, pretty much what happens, they just ignore me. Like I made the joke at Christmas that I could send a doppelganger or a dummy of myself and no one would know the difference because no one would even bother talking to them.
Oh.
Like, but that's just kind of how it is. Like, again, it's like my family, we never had like, there's not like a big blow up or anything that caused this. It's just like, I think over time, they've kind of, their little family unit has like closed in and in and in and in and in. And then I've kind of moved out and out and out and out and out and out. Like I've expanded my worldview and my family and like all the things that I do. And they've kind of
Hmm.
just slowly like turned inward. Um,
Hmm.
and that outward looking and that inward looking just don't really align too much. And it's just kind of a growing into two separate directions situation, more or
Hmm.
less. But
Yeah.
yeah. We have no expectations.
Yeah. So then how does your grieving process look like? Because you mentioned earlier that it's kind of like,
Yeah,
it's like a
ongoing.
grief of like, you never get to have that thing that you wanted, that like attentiveness.
Yeah. I think it's more or less just feeling those feelings. Like I'm a big proponent of feeling the feelings that you're feeling in the moment and just kind of letting them pass. Um, and finding productive ways to just feel your feelings. I mean, I go out on runs in the morning sometimes where the only rules are I keep breathing and I keep my feet moving and I can feel whatever feelings I want. If we need to cry for a
Yes,
minute,
running is great for processing
yes.
emotions.
Yeah, I've done
Yes.
a fair number of crunning, so crying and running runs at the same time where I just need to like get out and I need to move my body because I know like my two main things for processing my feelings are I need to be moving and
Hmm.
I need to verbally process things. So sometimes when I go out and I like and I'm really having a hard time processing, I will go out on a run. I'll probably cry for some of it. I'll talk out loud to myself for some of it. Like I look like a freaking insane human being. Like I look like I've just escaped an insane asylum. But
She's running from like prison.
yeah, like someone come and arrest me. But but like
Oh.
I just need to process my feelings by like verbally processing and like moving my body. And what I'll also do too is like I'll walk on my treadmill and I'll call my best friend and I'll just like vent to them or I'll
Hmm.
leave them like a 30-minute voice message of just like so it's just figuring out how you process things and how like I process things has been the biggest help with that. And then also realizing that though I can't get the things that I wanted from my blood family, I can and am actively getting the things that I wanted from my found family. Like I feel so seen and so validated and so like I bring so much joy, like they bring so much joy into my life to have my found family and I'm getting like I just one of my big things that I do every night is I journal. And to finish up my journaling every night, I write a list of the things that I'm thankful for. Um, just to kind of because I'm a big proponent too of like calls to like. So if you're going to be a grumpy puss, you're going to attract grumpy pusses. If you're going to be a nice person, you're probably going to attract more nice people. Like, and whatever the energy is probably going to call to other people who have the similar or the same energy. So I like to not only in person like tell people what they're doing correctly and like kind of talk them up, but I like to just be thankful for the things that I have because I fully realize that like I'm not entitled to any of these things. I'm not entitled
Hmm.
to have these wonderful people in my life. Like they could get up and leave whenever they wanted, which is a whole nother shenanigans of like people like abandonment things. But we'll talk about that another time. But like just like being thankful for what I have and just being thankful that life kind of just by circumstance and by randomness half the time put me in these situations where I know these people and that I've had the wherewithal to make the motions to let them know that they are important in my life and they are valid and kind of the same thing that we talked about earlier of me being like, we are friends now. Like we
Hmm.
shall be friends forever. And like I let my friends know. Like I hung out with my one of my really close friends now, Ben, the other day. I texted them afterwards. I'm like, I'm so glad we are friends. And like, I do that to like all my friends. I'm like, thank you so much. That was great. I love hanging out with you. And I want them to know that like I genuinely have like a great time and I feel seen and like I had a great time. Did I leave like 2 hours worth of crying voice messages for Jeff after I left them? Yes. Did they do the same thing to me? Yes. Was it great? Yes. Uh, so just I like to let people know that I'm thankful for them being in my life because again, I have a lot of things that I was never guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed to keep. I'm not guaranteed to have. And I have them. And I'm really thankful for that. So yeah,
Yes.
like to just let people know that.
I
Thank
love
you.
that. That's a nice self-awareness realization and also a great practice to realize like
Yeah.
what privileges and what amazing things you get to have in your life. And I can't believe how fast this time has gone by.
I know. I didn't realize that. I was like, oh my gosh, we're almost at like an hour.
And I do have some questions I ask people towards the end.
Yeah.
And there was also something in your bio that I wanted to ask you about,
Mm,
like, what does it mean? So I'm just
yeah.
going to look it up.
Yeah.
Just going to look up your name in my email inbox to find
Sounds like a
it.
plan.
It is spondy. What does that mean?
Oh, ankylosing spondylitis. Yes, that's like
Oh,
the
okay.
yeah, that's the weird arthritis that I have. That is
Okay.
essentially what is going to happen to me in the long run of things is my spine is going to fuse together, and I will become the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So again, I am looking for a cathedral to haunt. So if anyone has any cathedrals they are looking to get rid of, please let me know. I would like to ding dong a bell as an elderly person. Um, and just be a ghost in a honestly I want nothing more than to be just like a ghostly be an alive human being but be like a ghostly like figure of lore in everyone's town in the town that I live in and just be like
Oh,
did you know that there's a ghost that lives up in the church tower and it's really just me and I'm alive and well like I'm alive well it's going to be debatable but I'm alive and I'm like actively just going up to the church tower and like dinging the bell and I have like a voice changing microphone. Ooh, just like haunting, really wreaking havoc on the town that I live in, just living my best pre-ghost life before I become a ghost. And then I really
yeah.
start like wreaking havoc on people's lives. So
I love your sense of humor about it. My eyes are leaking a little bit.
I mean, there's nothing I can that's kind of the point where I've reached with like my chronic illness side of things. It's like I can only do so much. Like people like
Yeah.
Julianna, like you just take things in stride or like you're positive. I'm like, the choice is either I like sit in my own self pity and it's just miserable on top of the pain that I'm already in, or I deal with the pain and we laugh about it. Like it's
Mhm.
easier to exist as a human and like keep going if you find the humor in the things that you're going through because then it just makes things more tolerable. And honestly, again, like if I can become a ghost in the town that I live in and just like really just like wreak havoc on people's lives, I want nothing more than to cause that level of chaos.
Well,
Like
I'm glad I don't live in Massachusetts.
the good
I
thing
don't want
is
to be
too,
haunted.
the good thing is we have a lot of really old, like kind of creaky looking buildings here too. So I could
Yeah, it's
very
great.
yeah.
Hmm.
I could probably pretty easily find a church to haunt. And like I know the people in my town pretty well. So I'm sure if I asked around, I would know someone who's like part of one of the churches or something down here. And they would let me like go up to the and like be the bell ringer or something like once a week if I wanted to. So, but yeah, that's the chronic illness that I have. So
Okay.
yes.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
So, one of the questions I ask all my guests is, what does self-love mean to you?
Self-love to me means just feeling like I am being authentically myself in, I think, in everything that I can feel that feeling in, just feeling like I'm being myself, just feeling, again, this comes down to Juliana having a Pablo Picasso painting of like in her brain and trying to communicate this feeling that she feels in her soul that doesn't have a word for it to an audience that's looking for words. Um, but just I kind of I feel like one of the fictional characters that I identify the most with, there's two things that there are two characters I'm going to identify with this with. The first one is Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter.
Okay.
In the fact that he has that like little twinkle in his eye, that's one of his character traits. And I feel like I have that in my soul. Like just living, like just like feeling like throughout life, you just get that little like twinkle in your eye of just like, ooh, just feeling jazzed about something, which then rolls into the other fictional character that I feel like identifies with this, which is the main character from Soul, the Disney Pixar movie.
Oh,
Um,
I'm not familiar with that. I've never
okay.
heard of it.
So the moral of the story with Soul is that you should pursue your passions. That's kind of the end of the
Okay.
whole like thing like rolled up into one line. But the gentleman whose name escapes me, who is the main character, he wants to be a jazz musician. So they kind of come to the conclusion that when you are doing the thing that you're meant to do that kind of makes you light up from the inside out,
Mm.
that's like jazzing. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I feel like I'm jazzing, when I'm like glowing from the inside out, or I'm getting like a semblance of that feeling, that's kind of what I'm working towards,
Mm.
is just doing things throughout the day that either kind of fully bring out that light or at least like light it up a little bit. So I feel like I'm glowing from the inside out. Because when I'm living my most authentic life, like when I am announcing the Cape Cod Marathon finish line and I'm like just like truly being peak Julianna, like living my best life, having the best time in the entire world, I just feel like there's a light like exploding out of my chest, like making me glow from the inside out. And like I just have the best time. And I know the people around me are having a great time too, because I get a lot of compliments after that of like, this was so much fun. How do you keep your energy up the whole time? Because it's like 4 hours and then another 7 hours the next day. So it's decently
Mm.
long days. But like I have the best time in the entire world, and I would keep going because like I'm jazzing. I'm having the best time. I'm living my best life. And for me, that's just a lot of fun. And it's not, I'm not doing it so other people can have fun. I'm doing it because I have fun. And because I'm having fun, the other people around me end up having fun because we're just creating, like I'm just enjoying being myself and celebrating that. And
Mm-hmm.
then that just lets the other people around me know, I think, like, hey, I can have fun too. And so we should all just have fun and all just be ourselves. So I would say if that communicated anything effectively, I hope it did.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, self-love means like glowing from the inside out, jazzing, being
Yeah,
yourself. I
jazzing.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting that little twinkle in your eye and then just like letting
Yeah.
it shine out.
And as you describe it, I felt that feeling too. That's like
Yeah.
a nice, when you truly are in your element,
Yeah.
there is that twinkle in the eye that you do
Mm-hmm.
get.
Mm-hmm. Where you're
What's
just like,
cool too? Oh, go ahead.
oh
Sorry.
no, go ahead. No, I'm done. That was the end of my sentence.
What's cool too, because you mentioned Dumbledore and he's like, very old.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that like the eyes are the one thing that like doesn't change as you're old,
Mm-hmm.
so you can still have that glow as you get
Yeah.
old. That was just like a random thought that
No, that's a good idea. That's a really good point too. And just from a personal perspective, like my eyes are one of my favorite traits for myself too. And I think half of it is because I have like pretty decently sized, like really dark brown eyes. Um, and like people have complimented me on those before, but also I have very expressive eyes too.
Hmm.
Like it makes me laugh too when some people like tell me that they can't really use their eyebrows, and I'm like, I do plenty of eyebrow choreography. Thank you so much. And again, that's that theater kid thing again of just having like a very sometimes overly expressive face in a way that it
Yeah.
betrays you
Yes.
when you're trying not to show your exact feelings on your face, and you're like, I love it.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then
so I've discovered another reason why I do that, because it's also a big German thing too,
oh yeah.
where you can just read what they're thinking on their
Mm-hmm.
face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a problem sometimes
Yeah.
being having expressive face. But yeah.
So for the people that have tuned in and that are still listening, let us know where we can connect with you, maybe talk about your podcasts or anywhere that you want people to continue this conversation with you.
Yeah, I would say the best place to find me is my personal Instagram, which is Julianna_runs, and jelly spelled like grape jelly, and Anna with two N's. And That is where I'm the most active. If you liked the sounds of my dulcet tones, you can find me on 2 podcasts. Both are produced by myself. One is a solo podcast that I do called Runnah, Runnah, which is how you pronounce it in Massachusetts. And it's
Oh,
about running.
interesting.
Yeah. It's about running on Cape Cod and Massachusetts and beyond, and just talking to people who are part of that scene, which is really fun. I've also discovered that it is.
It's like an on the road podcast.
No, we're not right now. We're starting. I actually do it through the Falmouth Community TV station,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes up on public community TV as well too. So,
Cool.
which is cool. But I've kind of discovered that it's more or less me introducing the world to my friends who run. So if I've mentioned anyone on this podcast, you can probably Ben you can find on there, Nicole you can find on there. Jeff hasn't been on yet, but will be on at some point. But if you want to get a dose of Jeff, you can head over to my other podcast, Into the Fold, which is about the Grishaverse, which is the book series that the Netflix show Shadow and Bone is based off of. And we're doing a book club style read through where we read a couple of chapters and then we come back and we talk about it. And we read a couple of chapters, we come back and we talk about it. And just encouraging people who have read the books before, who haven't read the books before, to join in on the conversation, send us their feedback. And then Jeff and I, who, as you might have guessed from my personality, are a little bit off the rails. We talk about things that are going on in the books, and I did just have a nice time being friends, and it definitely goes off the rails quite a lot, but it's a lot of fun. And those are probably the 3 best places to get in contact with me if you're looking to continue any kind of conversation or listening experience.
Awesome. And I will include all of those links in the caption or the show notes, depending on if
Yes.
you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening.